A House Oversight and Accountability Subcommittee held a historic hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, also known as UFOs.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
If you have been following the news over the last year, you've probably noticed that the United States government has acknowledged the possibility of UFOs more often than they had before, and a couple of whistleblowers have even come forward to share their experiences. Why is this? To start, in April 2025, astronomers announced possible signs of life on a distant planet. The James Webb Space Telescope detected unusual chemicals, dimethyl sulfide, DMS, and dimethyl disulfide, DMDS, in the atmosphere of exoplanet K2-18b, a world about 120 to 124 light-years away. On Earth, these pungent sulfur compounds are only produced by living organisms, like ocean plankton, and they break down quickly, so finding them elsewhere in high amounts is a strong hint of biology. In fact, researchers reported that K2-18b's atmosphere contains thousands of times the DMS/DMDS levels of Earth's atmosphere. While not absolute proof, this potential biosignature gave scientists 99.7% confidence that something biological could be emitting those gases. If true, it means we are probably not alone. Life may be teeming in the cosmos, even relatively close by in our galactic neighborhood. Now, imagine if some of that life out there were not microbes, but intelligent beings with technology. 124 light-years is a vast distance, yet on the scale of our galaxy, it's not inconceivable that a sufficiently advanced civilization could traverse it. Could aliens have visited Earth? At the very least, many on Capitol Hill are starting to think it's possible. In an astounding turn of events, officials in the U.S. Congress have openly discussed the existence of non-human intelligence and retrieved alien craft as if these were real scenarios. It seems the stigma around UFOs is fading, and the U.S. government itself is taking the UFO question seriously in a way we've never seen before. But why now? What changed and what did they find? From fringe to mainstream, UFOs become UAP. For decades, talking about UFOs, unidentified flying objects, could brand you as a conspiracy theorist. Sightings were often laughed off as hoaxes, hallucinations, or misidentifications. Official investigations in the past, like the Air Force's Project Blue Book, 1952 to 1969, largely sought to debunk UFO reports rather than truly explain them. In fact, a 1953 CIA-sponsored panel recommended that the Air Force actively debunk and ridicule UFO sightings in the media to reduce public interest. Following this advice, Project Blue Book became more of a PR exercise. Unsolved cases were classified and only solved cases were released, usually with prosaic explanations.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States.
Not surprisingly, this fueled public distrust. Many Americans came to suspect the government was hiding something, especially after famous incidents like Roswell, 1947, became legend. UFOs were stuck in a cultural twilight zone. The public remained fascinated, but authorities publicly dismissed the topic for years. That began to shift in the 21st century, especially after a bombshell revelation in 2017. In December 2017, reporting by the New York Times exposed a secret Pentagon program called AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, that had been quietly investigating UFO sightings for years. Along with this came the release of authentic Navy cockpit videos showing unknown objects, the famous Tic Tac video from 2004 and others, maneuvering in seemingly impossible ways. These incidents were witnessed by highly trained military pilots, not just random civilians. The credibility of the witnesses and sensor data made it hard to shrug off the reports. Suddenly, major news outlets and even skeptics had to admit there might be something unexplained in our skies. To avoid the decades of stigma attached to UFO, the government adopted a new term, UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous or Aerial Phenomena. Renaming was a PR move. It allowed officials to discuss the issue seriously without the pop culture baggage of UFOs. And indeed, an official UAP report by the Director of National Intelligence in June 2021 marked a historic turning point. This preliminary assessment reviewed 144 military UAP encounters between 2004 and 2021 and could only explain one of them as a deflating balloon. The rest remained unidentified. More importantly, the report made clear that UAP are real physical phenomena. Most were detected on multiple sophisticated sensors, not just seen by pilots. It also warned that UAP clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. In other words, whatever these things are, they're in our airspace and could be dangerous. Close calls and credible encounters. Safety of flight became a huge motivator for action. Military aviators had been reporting near collisions with mysterious objects during training missions. For example, retired Navy Admiral Tim Gallaudet revealed an incident from 2015 off the U.S. East Coast. An unidentified object with astonishing flight characteristics loitered around a Navy exercise, and pilots reported multiple near mid-air collisions with it. In another famous case from 2004, Navy Commander David Fravor and his squadron encountered a Tic Tac UAP over the Pacific, a whitish, oblong object that darted erratically and then disappeared in an instant. According to sensor analysis later, this object accelerated to speeds above 45,000 miles per hour and pulled maneuvers with over 2,000 G-forces, far beyond any human aircraft. It also had no wings or obvious propulsion. Incidents like these left pilots and intelligence officers deeply unsettled. If these things aren't ours and they aren't known foreign craft, what are they? And how do we stop them from crashing into our jets or spying on our defenses? The frequency of UAP encounters also spiked in the 2010s, especially around Navy carrier groups. Former Navy fighter pilot Ryan Graves has testified that during his 2014 to 2015 deployment off the Atlantic coast, UAP sightings were an almost routine occurrence. His squadron's infrared cameras and radars picked up spherical objects and other odd shapes on an almost daily basis, sometimes hovering at 30,000 feet for hours. On at least one occasion, a pilot nearly hit one of these objects. It zipped past his canopy. Graves and others reported these bogeys, but many pilots stayed quiet to avoid ridicule. As Graves later put it, you don't want to be the guy shouting UFO on the radar scope. That stigma kept many incidents off the record. By the late 2010s, however, the Pentagon started worrying that some UAP might be cutting-edge drones or aircraft from foreign adversaries, or something even stranger. Either case is worrisome. If it's a foreign technology, say, hypersonic drones from China or Russia, the U.S. needs to know urgently, because it means a potential security gap or surveillance threat. If it's not foreign, well, then it could be something truly novel, which carries its own profound implications. In 2021, a bipartisan push in Congress forced intelligence agencies and the military to systematically collect and analyze UAP reports rather than sweeping them under the rug. The result was a newfound government openness about these phenomena. Officials openly stated that UAP intrusions were happening in sensitive airspace and could endanger aviation safety. The question became not are UFOs real, but rather, what are these unidentified objects and who is behind them? The Pentagon sets up a UFO office. To find answers, the U.S. Department of Defense established a new office with a rather unwieldy name, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, mercifully shortened to AARO, created in July 2022 at the direction of Congress. AARO's job is to investigate and resolve UAP sightings across air, space, and even underwater domains. In plain terms, they're supposed to be the UFO detectives of the government, coordinating reports from all branches of the military and intelligence community. AARO was given a clear mission: detect, identify, and if necessary, mitigate any objects that might threaten U.S. operations or security. Crucially, AARO isn't just looking for aliens. In fact, its official stance so far is that they have no evidence of extraterrestrial activity in UAP reports. The office expects that, with enough data, most cases will turn out to have ordinary explanations, like drones, balloons, clutter, or sensor quirks. But until each unknown is identified, it remains an open question. Establishing AARO marked a big shift. It signaled that military leadership now views UAP as a legitimate safety and intelligence issue, not a tinfoil hat topic. As Representative Robert Garcia noted in a 2024 hearing, "We know there are objects or phenomena observed in our airspace and also possibly in our oceans. The American people have legitimate questions, and it's Congress's job to help get answers. In fact, oversight committees in Congress have held multiple public hearings on UAP since 2022, dragging Pentagon officials into the open to explain what they know. This alone is extraordinary. Essentially, elected officials are finally grappling with a mystery that was confined to sci-fi and secret memos for so long. However, early results from AARO have been mixed and have not satisfied everyone. In its first public report, AARO, led by Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, stated it had found no credible evidence of alien craft and that many cases were likely balloons, aerial clutter, or other mundane objects. They even suggested some notorious videos, like the Go Fast infrared video of a purported fast-moving UAP, were camera illusions or sensor glitches, not actual physics-defying craft. Understandably, those conclusions frustrated many who expected deeper answers. Some critics accuse AARO of simply being Project Blue Book 2.0, another layer of bureaucracy to tamp down public excitement. And when AARO officials say everything is under control, it invites the question, if nothing extraordinary is going on, then why did we need a whole new office and laws to deal with it? Whistleblowers and the cosmic cover-up. Things took an even more dramatic turn in 2023 when a whistleblower stepped into the spotlight with explosive allegations. David Grush, a decorated Air Force intelligence officer who worked with the UAP task force, publicly claimed that the U.S. government or factions within it has been running a secret UFO crash retrieval and reverse engineering program for decades. According to Grush, this ultra-secret effort has recovered non-human spacecraft and even bodies of non-human origin, biologics, and kept it hidden from Congress and the public. In July 2023, Grush testified under oath before a House Oversight Subcommittee, stating that he had been briefed by multiple high-level insiders about retrieved craft of exotic origin. He also filed an official complaint with the Inspector General, claiming that he faced retaliation for trying to expose this information to his superiors. Notably, the Inspector General labeled his complaint credible and urgent. Grush's revelations hit Washington like a bombshell. Was this highly cleared officer telling the truth, or was it an elaborate delusion? Members of Congress from both parties took him very seriously, in part because other respected officials started to hint along similar lines. Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, and Luis Elizondo, who ran the Pentagon's earlier AATIP program, have suggested for years that the government is hiding something. In November 2024, Elizondo testified to Congress that advanced technologies not made by any government are indeed monitoring U.S. military sites, and that the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies while engaging in a multi-decade secretive arms race to understand and replicate them. In that same hearing, investigative journalist Michael Schellenberger delivered a report claiming an entire classified UFO data collection program, ominously codenamed Immaculate Constellation, has been operating without congressional oversight. According to Schellenberger's sources, this program holds a treasure trove of high-resolution images and other data on UAP encounters that the public has never seen. It's no wonder that Congress, feeling kept in the dark, started to get angry. Lawmakers have since demanded unprecedented transparency. In late 2023, they passed the UAP Disclosure Act as part of the annual defense bill. This law requires the government to collect and declassify records on UFOs UAP, and even asserts federal eminent domain over any recovered technologies of unknown origin or biological evidence of non-human intelligence that might be held outside government control. Think about that. Congress explicitly wrote into law instructions for handling alien tech and bodies just in case they exist. That alone shows how much the conversation has shifted. High-ranking senators like Chuck Schumer and Marco Rubio spearheaded this push. Schumer said the decades of excessive UFO secrecy were wrong and breed mistrust, noting credible reports that information was even withheld from Congress. Rubio put it bluntly when discussing whistleblower claims. Either what the whistleblower is saying is partially true or entirely true, or we have some really smart, educated people with high clearances and very important positions in our government who are crazy. In Rubio's view, either there's at least some truth to these UFO claims, or an alarming number of top insiders have lost their minds, and neither scenario bodes well if left uninvestigated. Mystery objects and national security. Another reason the government can no longer ignore this topic is that unidentified objects keep showing up, even over highly sensitive U.S. installations. We've touched on the Navy incidents, but consider a more recent wave of events: drones and high-altitude objects intruding into restricted airspace. In February 2023, after the much-publicized Chinese spy balloon floated across the United States, air defenses went on high alert. Within days, fighter jets were scrambled to shoot down 3 other unidentified objects over Alaska, Canada's Yukon Territory, and Lake Huron. These objects were smaller than the big balloon and had no obvious explanation. The US and Canada never recovered any debris from the 3 shootdowns, despite searches. To this day, we have no conclusive identification. The White House only suggested they, most likely, were benign hobbyist balloons. The lack of wreckage or photos for these incidents left many citizens uneasy. It was a stark reminder that even the world's most powerful military can be caught off guard by mysterious things in its skies, and sometimes can't even find the pieces after blowing them out of the air. Meanwhile, mysterious drone swarms have been reported over U.S. bases. In late 2023, personnel at multiple military installations, like Picatinny Arsenal in New Jersey and Langley AFB in Virginia, witnessed clusters of unknown drones hovering and zipping around night after night. Some of these drones were described as large, the size of a car, and remarkably elusive. They could evade pursuit and even seem to vanish from radar. The incursions were serious enough that bases went on alert, airspace was temporarily closed, and security teams were mobilized. The incidents also spurred congressional inquiries into who or what was behind them. So far, no official culprit has been named. Speculation ranges from foreign spies gathering intelligence, using advanced drones that can spoof or blind our sensors, to, of course, more exotic theories. Government agencies gave conflicting responses, at one point saying the drones might have been part of authorized exercises, but also taking steps like requesting the FAA to restrict airspace to stop them, which suggests they truly didn't control the situation. The whole saga had a whiff of something is out there and we can't catch it. Whether it turns out to be adversary drones or something stranger, it highlighted the gaps in our defenses. For Congress, this was yet another reason to demand the military get to the bottom of these incursions. You can't protect the American people if unidentified objects, whoever they belong to, can just snoop around nuclear bases or carrier strike groups with impunity? Aliens, myths, or cutting-edge tech? All these factors, pilot sightings, safety scares, leaked videos, drone swarms, and whistleblower accounts, have combined to push UFOs, UAPs to the forefront of government concern. The core reasons the U.S. government is investigating UFOs now boil down to a few key points: air safety and national security. Unknown objects in restricted airspace could cause accidents or indicate foreign surveillance. No responsible government can ignore that. If our pilots are playing dodge the UFO during training missions, we have a problem that needs fixing. If China or Russia has drones or aircraft far superior to our own, we really have a problem, one that demands urgent intelligence and defense measures. And if neither of those is true, and some UAP truly represent technologies beyond known human capability, then that's potentially the greatest discovery or threat of our time. Any which way, it demands investigation. Credible evidence piling up. The stigma has eroded as military and intelligence officials themselves come forward with data. We have multi-sensor measurements, radar tracks, infrared videos, satellite images, and trained observers, all noting things that defy conventional explanation. The government isn't investigating UFOs due to internet rumors or grainy Bigfoot-style photos. It's doing so because credible people within the system essentially forced its hand with evidence and testimony that something unusual is happening. As Representative Garcia said, the sheer number of reports and credible witnesses warrant investigation and oversight. Public and congressional pressure for truth. We're in an era of low trust in institutions. Keeping UFO talk hush-hush for decades only fueled wild theories. Now that Congress has sniffed a potential cover-up, with even senators saying they suspect information was withheld from them, there's a bipartisan push to restore transparency and get facts on the table. Many lawmakers see disclosure as important not just for security, but to restore public faith. If there really are secret programs retrieving exotic materials, Congress wants oversight. If it's all a big misunderstanding, Congress wants the Pentagon to show convincing proof of that. In short, the legislative branch doesn't want to be left out of the loop on an issue that so captivates and concerns the public. This is why we've seen unprecedented hearings where military pilots and whistleblowers spoke openly to the nation about their experiences under oath. Scientific curiosity and technological potential. There's also a quieter reason. What if there's something to be learned here? If some UAP are later identified as novel natural phenomena or a new kind of plasma physics quirk, scientists would love to know. It advances knowledge. If some sightings were advanced foreign drones, that's an intelligence win to figure out. And of course, if even one case turned out to be evidence of extraterrestrial or non-human technology, the implications are staggering. That could mean revolutionary breakthroughs in propulsion, materials, energy, or a deeper understanding of our place in the universe. Government agencies, from NASA to the Pentagon, have researchers who are genuinely intrigued by that prospect, however remote it might be. Even NASA has now formed its own UAP study team, signaling that it's okay for scientists to investigate the unknown without fear of ridicule. In a sense, studying UAP is now seen as potentially high reward, even if it's also high risk in terms of one's reputation. Keeping our feet on the ground and eyes on the sky. As exciting as this topic is, it's important to maintain a balanced perspective. So far, the government has not presented any smoking gun piece of alien evidence to the public. No crashed saucer on the White House lawn. No crystal clear photos of an ET waving hello. The data we do have, while fascinating, are often ambiguous. Blurry videos, radar blips, accounts without physical proof. This lack of definitive public evidence is why skeptics urge caution. They argue that human error, misidentified drones, instrument quirks, or classified human tech could explain a lot of these cases without invoking aliens. And indeed, AARO's official line is that many UAP reports ultimately do have ordinary explanations once properly analyzed. For example, Some fast-moving UFO videos were likely optical illusions, where a stationary object appears to move due to the camera's motion. Other sightings might be foreign spy craft that the Pentagon prefers not to discuss openly. However, what's different today is that even skeptics in government acknowledge there is a residue of truly puzzling cases that can't yet be explained. Rather than sweep those under the rug, they're being investigated further, as they should be. It's a healthy sign for science and governance when we can say, "We don't know yet," instead of coming up with wild cover stories, like when Project Blue Book infamously claimed a glowing UFO chased by Ohio police in 1966 was the planet Venus, which was in a completely different part of the sky. Today's approach is meant to be more transparent and data-driven. In the end, why is the US government investigating UFOs? Because it has to. The combination of national security concerns, genuine unknowns, political pressure, and scientific curiosity has made it impossible for leaders to just shrug and ignore the subject. Too many highly credible witnesses have reported encounters. Too many sensor systems have captured anomalies. And frankly, the public's interest has reached a point where demanding answers is mainstream, not kooky. Officials often say, if there's nothing to hide, then let's investigate openly. And if there is something to hide, well, it's all the more reason to bring it to light responsibly. The truth may turn out to be prosaic, profound, or a mix of both. We might find that the majority of UAP incidents were misidentifications or foreign drones after all, but also that a handful of reports point to something genuinely novel that warrants further study. As we stand now, we are watching a real-life X-Files meets Oversight Committee drama play out. The Pentagon trying to reassure everyone nothing is crazy here, and Congress and the public responding, "Show us the evidence." This renewed scrutiny ensures that whatever answers are out there, whether it's new military tech, atmospheric oddities, or yes, even visitors from afar, will eventually come to light. In the words of Senator Rubio, the situation is either a remarkable true story or a remarkable collection of errors. One of two things here are true, and either way, we need to know. Until definitive evidence emerges, a bit of healthy skepticism coupled with an open mind is the best stance. The US government's new investigations into UFOs show that curiosity and caution have finally trumped stigma and silence. It's an exciting time for those of us who look up at the night sky and wonder what's really out there. After all, if space has taught us anything, it's that the universe is full of surprises, and we're overdue for some answers right here at home. Keep watching the skies and stay tuned.